Next, I just wanted to go into some topics that were sort of breached to us by some other partners. So I just wanted to go off script a little bit with the agenda and make sure that we talk about some of these things and address them. So, like I said, we'll go ahead and do that real quick. So first off,
That a little bit more. I was trying.
we had been getting a lot of requests from county level leaders and from representatives regarding updates and visuals about our grant programs, sort of where we're at in terms of state commitments, federal commitments, and then what's BEAD eligible. So what I want to tell you guys is we have essentially a mapping tool on the way that's going to be external facing. It's going to be interactive. It's going to have a lot of great features. It's going to be constantly updated and have more things added and new things added. So be on the lookout for that. We're working through it with our comms team, but once we get that, you guys will be able to access that. I know you guys are familiar with our older mapping tools. This one will be really, really special. The team has done a really great job on it, and I've seen early versions of it, and it's really helpful. So I want to let you guys know that if you get a request from a representative or a commissioner or whatever, in the meantime, we can make you a county level map that shows the current location. And we do want to kind of, I guess, give you, a couple caveats to that. Those paper maps can be a little flawed in certain ways. It can be hard to sort of visualize some of this stuff. Obviously, it's a screenshot in time. We get new information every day. The service providers build out stuff on their own. The RDOF people are working on their stuff. So every day the fabric gets updated, the VDC gets updated. So obviously there's some flaws with the paper maps, like I said. So it is an option that's available if you need us to help you out with that. If you get a specific request, we can help you accommodate that. But we just want to make sure, one, that that we will have this tool that you guys will be able to utilize yourselves, and can really search and get really granular about specific areas of your counties. And two, like I said, if you do need it, we're happy to help. But yeah, just wanted to address that, like I said. So if you do need a map, like I said, let us know. We'll be happy to get you something. So the next thing that was brought up to us was we've been having a lot of conversations with service providers with respect to BEAD and permitting specifically. So we're working with the Association of Counties on this. We are working to identify a sort of county level permitting point of contact in each county. We want to get ahead of the game on this to make sure that that at the county level that there's an understanding that there will be a pretty large influx of permits that'll be coming through because of BEAD. Like I said, we're going to be working with the Association of Counties on that. If you guys have county level contacts that you can provide to us, city managers or whomever handles the permitting for your counties. I know it's a little different, and I know each county obviously has different capacity to handle these things. So any information that you can provide to us would be really helpful. Like I said, we're trying to make sure that we do not just dump dozens of permits on people who are not prepared to handle this. Yes, sir, Commissioner Harvey, I see your hand raised.
I'm sorry. I just noticed on the agenda the next meeting would be March 20th. When we get to that topic, I would like to say something about that. Okay.
To the meeting on the 20th?
Correct.
Okay.
A lot of us are already going to be in town for rural days, so we won't be able to attend that meeting. We might want to look at pushing that back.
Okay. Gotcha. Let me make a note of that, and I can work to reschedule. But thank you for letting me know, and we will we will work on that. Yeah, and just about the meeting in general, sorry, I know we kind of spammed your inboxes on that because we had to transfer the ownership of the meeting from Aaron to me. And then we had too many people out of office last week, and so we couldn't do the meeting at the normal time, so we had to set up a separate instance of the same meeting, how it goes. So sorry about that. I do want to say um, we had our IT work on it and forward the meeting and recreate it and all that. Um, if there's anyone who should be here who isn't here, or anything like that, please forward the meeting. We're going to do our best to double check and make sure that we got everyone. But like I said, a handful of people have reached out to me and let us know that they did slip through the cracks there. So like I said, certainly not trying to exclude anyone, just like a minor IT issue in terms of the way that the meeting got recreated and forwarded. So like I said, let me know, and I think you guys should be able to forward it yourselves. So if not, please let me know, and I'd be happy to forward to anyone in your network who should be included. So the next thing that I did want to address was we also got a request regarding some essentially ways for individual users who are close to a service area for one of our grants, but not within the service area, to sort of put in a request to have the service area amended. Essentially, we have in our contracts, we have sort of developed a way to incorporate some of those areas in without having to go through the entire contracting process again. So if you hear from an individual who says, "Oh, they're building out broadband next to my house, but they're not coming to me," please feel free to either direct them to the map, to the FCC map, to see if they're served and see what the service area offerings are, because a lot of people just don't know that they are served. But you can also direct them to our broadband inbox, broadband@commerce.fl.gov, and we can work to accommodate them. Peter, appreciate that. Thank you for the message. We'd be happy to meet with them if you could provide a contact. We'd be happy to learn anything we can about the permitting process. Certainly looking to get as much information as possible. Joe, I see your hand up. Yes, sir.
Yes, Jacob, thank you. I have one question. We're preparing. I hope we go through the BEAD timeline on this call, but I'm trying to work on an application for a client, and I'm interested in a mechanical question. Once an award will be made by Florida to a sub awardee, okay, is the drawdown through the state of Florida, or will, let's say, an ASAP account be created by NTIA, so the drawdowns come directly from NTIA? Can you give any guidance on that for me, please, sir?
I believe we have Paul on the line who would be able to speak to that a little more.
Yep, I got it, Jacob. So all of these awards are through the NTIA. We will have to set up an account with them to draw the cash down from them. Right now, the process takes between 5 and 15 days for them to approve a cash draw request. And I think the process is pretty straightforward. Of course, with all the things going on in Washington now, who knows how that process is going to continue to work. But we have been doing cash draws from the Treasury since January 20th. And the time has been about 5 to 15 days to get those approved once we have submitted the information, but they have been approved and we have been getting our funds.
Understood. And that is a very good answer, because once a BEAD awardee is in process, I mean, the turnaround for ASAP reimbursements is measured in days, not weeks. So I'm trying to measure working capital that would be required in the event of a BEAD award. It sounds like reimbursements can happen fairly quickly, assuming nothing changes from today.
Correct. That's today.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So I think we've gotten everything out of the way. If anyone has any questions about any of that, happy to work on that. Yes, ma'am, Beatrice, I will get you the link. It's the through the FCC broadband map. But basically, um, so the long and short of it is that we've had some users, I think, be a little confused about how to tell and um, what their service is based on the map, and also the map by default checks off satellite, and so a lot of people appear to be served when they put their address in, but they're not because satellite is not counted. If you are served only by satellite, you're not counted as served, so that default is hard to check off. So here's the link to the FCC broadband map is what I'll say. Here's the link to the map. Um, they can put their address in here, and then they can see what the service offerings are at their address. And if there's any confusion about it, like I said, we're happy to interpret the data for them or help them with that. Okay. So is copper counted as fiber? So we have elected to use what's called the DSL modification for our BEAD program, which means that copper, regardless of speed, is counted as unserved. So any location that is served by copper alone will be eligible for BEAD regardless of speeds. So copper is not counted as fiber. It is counted, like I said, is counted as unserved if you are served only by that. If you're served by fiber or by copper and something else, then we would take that into account. But if it is only copper, you'll be considered unserved and eligible for BEAD.
Jacob, a correction to that. It's underserved.
Underserved, forgive me, but still eligible for BEAD.
Correct.
So I will now move on to our sort of regular scheduled agenda here. I'm going to share a different page for you here. So this is, and I'll put this link in the chat, but this is our, oh, hang on, sorry. This is our page through Broadband Nation, which is a sort of broadband industry organization that we're working with on our workforce efforts, particularly on our marketing stuff. So I want to make you guys aware of this because the idea for this page is that it's kind of a one-stop shop for anything related to Florida's broadband workforce, particularly for BEAD. So the page itself, like I said, has like content on it. It has articles, but it also has like a lot of resources for potential job seekers as they kind of navigate the broadband landscape, right? So you get this sort of information here about how many jobs will be needed, et cetera, and we're working with some of our subrecipients to film some sort of promotional material that we can get out there to kind of try and draw people to broadband careers. But we have, like I said, videos, and this is one of, I think, the sort of key elements of this is we're working with our service providers and sub-grantees to post their jobs onto the website, which will allow for a job seeker to come onto this website and see what is available and where, and in what sort of fields. As you can see, there's a training component here. Obviously, there's a lot of sort of pertinent jobs that they would be able to apply for, and this unsure where to start sort of is like an interactive kind of quiz type thing where a person can sort of say what their interests are and like on like a personality level, and they can kind of be guided. What's a career in broadband that might work for me? But the idea here is that a person with no information can understand what training is necessary to do any of these jobs, where are the jobs available, who can I work with, what resources are available to me, and kind of shepherd an individual who is looking for a job but doesn't know what resources are available to them. Basically, they'll be able to find this website, and they'll be able to understand, like I said, the resources available, what a career looks like, what I can be paid, what are the jobs, what training do I need to get there, and anything in between. So, like I said, we're working on this. we're going to sort of, I think, couple this with an advertising campaign, sort of through traditional social media, to try and kind of connect with people there. So we still have found word of mouth is super important. So if you guys, have people in your network who would be interested in this, who, need some more concrete information about, broadband job offerings that are available or training offerings that are available or anything like that, this is the place. I will copy paste this link into the chat. And this is a very early version of this website. Like I said, we will be putting more information on here, certainly more jobs, as our workforce grants start to go out and our contracts with CareerSource start to get finalized. There will be a wider variety of training materials and other information like that available on the site as well. So like I said, I think looks great really right now, but like I said, it's going to get even better. So just wanted to introduce you guys to that, make sure you guys were aware. If any, like I said, if you have any workforce economic development entities sort of in your communities who are curious about this, this would be a good place to direct them. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. So the last thing that we have on the agenda before we can go into question and answer and then any relevant reports is this our capacity grant collaboration discussion. So we just wanted to make sure essentially that as we move forward, that there are certain entities that we have been talking with in terms of the workforce and economic development, as well as capacity. So just wanted to make sure that this is on your radar as you guys are starting to develop plans for your capacity and workforce grants. And those are specifically community action agencies, workforce boards, and then the state and technical colleges on the workforce side. So Florida Commerce essentially has a really good existing working relationship with those entities and can very easily, I think, partner and plug in to the work that they're already doing in other programs. So that was, I think, sort of key to our efforts. And we've worked on webinars for workforce that have already addressed those entities. And I think our future webinars will address them specifically, both for capacity and BEAD. So like I said, I just wanted to kind of get you guys thinking about that, about potential partnerships that could work in those areas for future capacity grant funding. And, by no means is that exhaustive. Obviously, if you have, an idea for something through your library or whatever, like I said, doesn't have to handle that, but just want to make sure, these are agencies, the boards and the community action agencies exist in your areas, and it's just a helpful jumping off point if it's something that you hadn't considered yet. So just wanted to make sure that we are covering all of our bases in that regard. So with that, I think we can move forward. Does anyone have any questions? And then I think after that, we will have our LTPT only section of the call. But before that, does anyone have any questions or anything? Can you share a timeline for the capacity grant in BEAD or advise where you have it posted? So we have, well, we have a timeline. We're sort of working through it, and obviously with potential changes in the federal government, nothing is set in stone. For BEAD, I think we're looking at opening it sooner rather than later. I know we had sort of intended for infrastructure to open in summer. I think due to some internal timelines, I think we're sort of looking at moving that up a little bit, potentially in March or April for the LMI and for the overall BEAD timeline for infrastructure. Paul, if you want to speak more specifically to that, but we have to essentially report all of our BEAD locations to NTIA by September of this year, or I think it's September of this year. So we have to kind of get moving on that. So I think we have been considering moving the BEAD timeline up, and then workforce and digital capacity. Had been looking at opening around the same time, March, April of this year. I can follow up with you more specifically, Axel, if there's something you're looking for outside of that. But that's sort of our BEAD update, as we had been looking at moving the timeline back a little bit for infrastructure.
Jacob,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just a follow up on Axel's question. Let's suppose March or April is when BEAD moves up. That's not changing the fact that Florida is not requiring a pre-qualification step, correct?
So
I'll take that, Jacob.
go ahead.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, Joe. So we're not requiring a pre-qualification. Most of the applicants we've already dealt with. We know what their qualifications are, but we are going to ask for a pre-registration so that we have that information. Probably going to be, I'm working with, as a matter of fact, I have to leave this call in about 5 minutes to work with our contractors that are doing that. It'll probably be the second week in March by the time we get that up, but it'll be simple stuff. It'll be, the name as in SunBiz, right. It'll be the UEI, their provider ID, all of the stuff that's essential for getting an award out there.
Perfect.
And once they fill that information in once, when they go to apply, it will pre-populate all that data, so they won't have to do it any more than that one time.
Understood. Very good. So pre-registration rather than pre-qualification should be straightforward, and a one-time pre-registration and multiple BEADs if they wanted to apply multiple times.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we are going to ask the non-LTPT members to leave the call, and we will go on and just chat with just the LTPT leads themselves. So thanks everyone for coming, and like I said, we will convene, and per Commissioner Harvey's request, we will work to reschedule next month's call.
While we're waiting for everybody to exit, this is Paul. I've got about 5 minutes left before I got to go to another call. So if there's something that I need to answer for you, I'll be happy to take those questions now. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it to Jacob and bounce. Okay, cool. Enjoy the rest of your meeting, guys. I'm sorry I got to drop out.
Okay. So we can move on to LTPT reports now. If anybody has anything to share, any achievements, anything that they've learned. I know Sean in Leon County, formerly of the Office of Broadband, is working on standing up his team and is doing a great job with that. So appreciate that. Wanted to shout out Sean and his great work in Leon County.
And I wanted to thank you for attending. We had some really great questions out of our group, and Jacob was really, really great on really answering those questions and making sure that everyone was comfortable with the information that's out there. We are restarting our team here in Leon County, so he provided some really wonderful technical assistance to our team. So thank you, Jacob.
Yes, sir. Happy to do it. And if anyone else has a team that's maybe fallen out a little bit, happy to do anything we can. And the offer to see you guys in person still stands, if that would help. If you guys are doing it in person and you need, people from our office to come, happy to accommodate that. And like I said, we will be introducing you to a new LTPT coordinator soon. So be on the lookout for that.
So Jacob, speaking of in person, I don't know if this would be a good time to ask our question about in person versus virtual, and kind of the dilemma that we've been having here in St. Lucie County.
Yes, ma'am. So to fill, I guess, the rest of the teams in, St. Lucie has interpreted, I think, our LTPT statute fairly rigidly in terms of the way that the team functions, in terms of what is required of the states or required of the teams. Our guidance to you guys has always been that the teams are informal entities that they can meet virtually or in person, that they can accommodate whatever your needs are. I mean, that we're willing to come to you in terms of what works best for your communities. So Carrie, can you clarify a little bit on your question, and then maybe some other team members can kind of jump in and they can speak to the way that they've formatted the teams in their counties, and maybe give you a little bit more context on that.
Sure. And thank you for allowing me to bring this to the group. So when our LTPT was formed here in St. Lucie County, as Jacob mentioned, the interpretation was made that it was to be a very formal committee, to the point where a resolution was created that required our board of 5 commissioners to approve that at a formal board meeting, and therefore putting some very stringent guidelines around that meeting. The committee, the LTPT committee, would have to abide by sunshine laws, that it required that each meeting was to be in person. And given the collaborative nature of what the LTPT is, it made it very hard, and is very hard, to then have members that are on the LTPT collaborate with each other with these grants, and with just trying to come up with ideas and bring others in to collaborate. And so in speaking with Jacob and with other LTPTs at meetings and what have you, it seemed like we were almost the odd county out, and that others had actually been doing all virtual meetings and maybe having some in-person meetings once in a while, but not certainly as rigid or as formal as our county had made that. And so we are looking for some assistance from you all. How was your actual, from the beginning, was there any involvement with your boards? Were resolutions started with the board, or how did that happen? Because we're actually looking for some support to get this kind of taken steps back, so that we can just perform as just a team, an LTPT team, and remove all of this kind of things that are really holding us back, I think, from being able to be much larger, much more collaborative as a LTPT here in St. Lucie County. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that's perfect. So does anyone have any sort of I guess anything they can speak to in terms of the way that they started out their team? How did you interpret statutorily the duties of the team? Did you find that and I guess what level of collaboration do you have with your boards? And sort of how have you handled some of these issues? Can anyone speak to this? Kyle, I see your hand.
Sure. Thank you very much. I'm happy to share. We recognized early on, we're a small county, about 200,000 folks. We did have some areas where we thought, in the very beginning, there might be, some need for diverse technologies. We can see now that fiber is becoming really a reasonable and viable choice for us across the board. But at the time we're creating an LTPT, we did not know any of that. We also felt like we were running about a year behind in terms of our formation. So when we went to our county attorney and we went to our policymakers, We really anticipated that we needed lots of collaboration and lots of creativity, and we decided not to become formal, because we didn't want politics to enter into it. We didn't want appointments from policymakers within districts and outside of districts. It would clearly be too cumbersome. But we voluntarily chose to build trust in the community. We voluntarily chose to subject ourselves to a high level of transparency. So we publicly noticed all of the meetings. Everybody was welcome. We chose venues where they were able to come in, and then we just really adopted, to comply with sunshine laws. You know what I mean, in terms of the way we coordinated and convened the meetings. And so we ended up with an acceptance and across the public and participation levels that was really higher than what I expected. We were working quickly, and so we knew we should always be transparent. But because we were working quickly, trying to catch up, we just we integrated and communicated with our media up front before we convened the first meeting, so that we could get it all launched in the right way, so that there would be buy-in and it would be clear that this was focused on how local government could really serve its citizens using state money. So that's always a positive message. We did include in the messaging, Jacob and Sean that's on the call and the rest of the broadband team, we included in our communication that the state office was well organized and ready to serve. So it wasn't like get ready and wait. The messaging was get ready because they're already ready and we got to get going. So that just blew the doors open for collaboration. So I do hope that that helps others who maybe are reigniting or considering talking to their policymakers about undoing and redoing a viable team.
Thank you. Did you have bylaws that you created?
No, we did. No, there was no time for that really. And I'm sorry to hear that some counties have had to kind of create that, because I mean, that's a year or maybe 2 years. In this community, if we were going to do that, that would be a 2-year process for us. So we couldn't do that.
Appreciate you, Kyle. And I see your question in the chat. After we get through this, I'll address that.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yes, sir. David, I believe you're next.
Sure. Happy to share. When we were tasked with setting up the LTPT, we wanted to be cautious, as he was mentioning before, of pulling a lot of politics into it. So what we did was we looked at who within our community already had a structure and a good working relationship with our board. We were very fortunate that we have a group called Polk Vision, which is it's kind of focused on county-wide initiatives of quality of life through all of the aspects. And we were able to actually reach out to them and ask if we could create, as part of that group, a committee or to adopt into it the local technology planning team. And because it was really focused around the overall quality of life for Polk County, they were eager to allow us that venue or that footprint. So we used Polk Vision and a subcommittee within Polk Vision to really build out our local technology team, because a lot of the constituents that were already members of that team, and maybe not even as active, were thrilled to work in conjunction with us to start moving kind of their own agendas forward. And so it was great. We ended up with providers. And if you go back and look at the original structure, it included things like the libraries and the different healthcare and parks and natural resources and ag and all of those. And they became a great conduit for us to use their membership to really populate our local technology team. And the other big benefit is they already had a structure. They already had bylaws. They already had their articles of incorporation. They already had that. So we were able to adopt their structure. And then they were thrilled that we started reaching out to other individuals that perhaps were not already active, healthcare, arts, to bring everyone together. So it was kind of a symbiotic relationship and continues to be so. And then I think Kyle hit on it very nicely. And then really bringing in the broadband team here from the state. We've had some events, things, and Sean's been here, I believe. Jacob was at our last meeting, and really it adds credibility and some real passion around it. So really we literally used another group that was existing and just kind of helped build their group as well as ours, and it was a great collaboration. I don't know if that helps or not, but that way we didn't have to, and it was a group that our commissioners already trusted and were aware of.
And maybe I should clarify, we're already established. We've been meeting for over 18 months. We have all the people that are described in their, in the original LTPT. I think it's been cumbersome having such a strict, you have to be in person, you have to abide by sunshine laws. So we're trying to leverage what others have done to be more flexible, to be less formal, and how that was achieved.
I don't know if what I was saying helped at all, but that we moved it off of our board and onto another team that was already, respected and organized. So that was our journey.
We've attended your meetings.
Thank you.
It's great. Thank you.
Sean, you want to jump in?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. A
Hi,
little
Sean.
history. During my time as chief with the Office of Broadband at Florida Commerce, when we stood up the LTPTs, we made the conscious decision to not make them formal for a couple of different reasons. One, to make sure that they were completely apolitical, so that the priorities of the team wouldn't ebb and flow, but they would be driven by the community members, actual practitioners rather than political figures, and also to allow for flexibility to meet in whatever formats worked for that community, and also to be able to meet very, very quickly when opportunities arose or challenges arose. By formalizing the teams, it kind of locks you into exactly what you've described for us this morning, where it's hard to schedule things. It's hard to respond to opportunities very, very suddenly and things like that. So, yeah, that was a conscious decision that the office made. And if you actually read the statute, I don't believe it ever speaks to local elected officials, and I think that was on purpose. When it talks about local government membership, the intent was practitioners. So that would be your county administrators, your city managers, your folks who are actually implementing things and know how things work on the ground. Those are the folks that we wanted to really be discussing the implementation and execution of these programs. I think there were only a couple of counties, and I think yours was one of the couple that I want to say maybe it was Martin County. That was the other county that formalized theirs, and we explained to them that was never our intention. But I believe their legal counsels made that decision that they were going to do that. So that's not driven by the Office of Broadband. That was a local decision that was made there. So that's a little of the background to give you some context on what these were intended to be.
Thanks, Sean.
It's Kyle here. One last thought. We also had a conversation about not signing NDAs with the individual service providers. And so I don't know if this would occur in other markets, but our ISPs accepted the integrity of the staff and knew that we would not just disclose. And so that just that helped to bring the ISPs into the office to show us grant applications for us to really build ongoing relationships across all of the funding streams. But NDAs was something that I suppose legal counsel could bog down in, and our counsel was real flexible with that, and but advised us not to do that because we didn't want to create any more public records types of requests that would just be too just get real cumbersome had it become super formal with people shopping each other. And so that just one other comment in case that came up.
And I'll jump in to build on that. The office has, in statute, a public records exemption for broadband equipment. So if a service provider did give you a hard time about it, we could serve as an intermediary. We could handle the data, and we could make sure that was handled in a way that is clear to them and could make them maybe feel a little bit better about it. Like I said, that is written into statute that our grants are considered proprietary information and subject to public record exemption. So we can handle that if they do give you a hard time about it. Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Jacob. Tell me what the issue is here. I don't quite seem to understand the issue. And I apologize. So
you're fine. So St. Lucie is working to kind of restand up their team, and in doing so, they read through the statute and decided to sort of formalize their team into a more like formal body that has like they were speaking about bylaws, report specifically to the commission, has to meet in person, is subject to sunshine requirements, and essentially I think they had asked us if that were the way that other counties had handled the situation, if any did, and then if other counties didn't, sort of how did they opt to stand up their team. And yes, sir.
Can I tell you what, Putnam County? I mean,
Yes,
you're
sir.
talking to the guy that wears the Access 67 hat from the Florida Association of Counties, who dressed up as Flash Drive, right, Sean, and ran through the audience, so excited to get broadband to come to rural Florida. I'm just going to say this. It's a hot dog. Don't make it more complicated than that. I mean, it's not that difficult. It's a group of people that are sitting around the table with our ISPs, and that group changes at every meeting. People come in, people leave out, people want to know what the response is at the end of the day. But this is an avenue for people to come in and our ISPs to show us what they're doing, and we move forward. Don't make it more complicated than a hot dog at the end of the day. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And I'll say one last thing. So I did speak to our general counsel about this, and the guidance we got is that the LTPT's decision-making authority is not formal enough to warrant complicitness with the sunshine requirements. That's, like I said, that's our understanding, is that the way that the teams are formalized, that the decision-making authority is not enough to constitute a sunshine law situation.
My concern is we get some that start getting too formal, and we're going to find ourselves in a mess when the design, like Sean said, was never for this to be that way. It's more of an information gathering where the problems are and sending that back out in the universe for the ISPs to solve. That's how we keep it a very simple project in Putnam County. And if we start making it more complicated, we're going to have more regulation than we ever wanted. Thank
Hey,
you.
Jacob, I don't suppose your attorneys are willing to put that in writing to send to our attorney, do you?
I have an email from them. I can forward you what they sent me if that's sufficient. If you need something else, like I said, please follow up, but I can, let me make a note of that and I will forward you the email that they sent me.
And please, everyone on this call, we're wanting to be informal, but it was set up in a way that has been hindering us to be more successful. And so the guidance that we were seeking is to get the support and understanding from you all to help us build that case to change the way that it was formed. And that's our goal. So I appreciate everybody speaking up, and certainly thank you to Jacob for speaking with our legal and for speaking with legal of Florida Commerce to try to get this turned around to be the right intention.
Hey, Carrie, some people just like to carry the clipboard around and act important, when in fact, it's really not that big of a deal. And it's really supposed to just help the community gather together to find out what the needs are and go, I didn't hear that, but we'll run that up the flagpole. I mean, that's really all it was designed to do. So, and believe me, I had a legislator who came to me. I've shared that story privately to a lot of people. And I said, look, we're not hindering it. We're just here to go, thank you very much for sitting at the table. Appreciate the information. Have a wonderful day. So that's how we did it.
Carrie, it's Kyle
Appreciate the
again.
support.
It's Kyle
Yes,
again.
sir.
I'm sorry. It was very helpful to our policymakers and our county attorney when we made it very clear that we would not be touching any of this money. We're really just convening people and we're going to quote unquote endorse, so to speak, applications. And so once they all realized we are never going to touch any of the money, then that just took away all of the pressure for it to be formal and political and all of that. And so then we were able to, the media, of course, loved hearing that too. This is not going to be some political thing that's going to start touching a bunch of money. Then our community just all understood and they were willing to rally because it was about service, and open communication. So maybe that will really help. I mean, nobody there can touch any money.
Yep. Every little piece of the puzzle has been building, and we're at a cusp now. I think we're so close.
I do want to make sure that I get to Kyle's question. So just real quick, does anyone else, any other final thoughts on this before we move on? Okay, seeing none.
Thank you all.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So Kyle asked in chat, just clarification on the timeline adjustment. Are there multiple program focuses in BEAD, one of which is infrastructure? So essentially, yes. The way that our BEAD program is set up, we got a total allocation of $1.16 billion, but the way, and we have sort of minimum goals that we have to meet in terms of service. We have to serve every unserved and underserved location in Florida with that money. And then we can use what is left essentially to do other things. Workforce, we can do digital literacy, etc. So the way we've budgeted it is we have set aside what we think is more than enough to cover every unserved and underserved location in the state, including Indian tribal locations. And with that budget, like I said, which is pretty conservative in terms of cost per location, we have funds left over for us to do workforce development and cybersecurity. So we have $110 million allocated from BEAD for workforce specifically. The form that we are looking at there is a pool of funds that will go directly through our office to Career Source and then to individual career sources through the greater Career Source to handle broadband apprenticeships. And then we're looking at the remaining funds to go towards a competitive application for state colleges, technical colleges, nonprofits, educational institutions that are private, anyone who provides services directly related to education or indirectly related, to sort of either stand up a new broadband program where one doesn't exist or build capacity if they do have one that does exist. So that's sort of our workforce plan in general, but I think we sort of approach it the way we approached capital projects, where you have capital projects fund and then 3 sub-programs. I think our BEAD approach is similar, where we have BEAD deployment, which is our infrastructure side, and then BEAD non-deployment, which is workforce and cybersecurity. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. I hope that answers your question. But yeah, that's our thought about that. Awesome. So, does anyone else have any questions for the team? Okay. Seeing none. Oh, yes, sir. Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Jacob. I just want to really publicly thank you and Paul for the meeting last week that we had with Jeff and sitting down and yeah, that one pager idea and the things that y'all are going to come out with is really going to propel these local technology planning teams and our communities and our legislators and our elected officials. So it's really exciting to see where you've been and where you're going to. And also the amount of money that's been spent and the amount of money that hasn't been spent and how fast that's going to come into our communities. So
Yes, sir.
we're in a good spot, and I know it's kind of been like a hot potato. It's your turn to play quarterback, and I only played defensive end, but truly y'all are working very hard, and I know that y'all are capable. I mean, I can see it. Last week it was a great meeting. And like I said, you and Paul are just above reproach on this. But I look forward to what you're putting together, because that information is going to benefit the citizens of our county to be able to be informed. And just like I asked you today, if copper counted as fiber, well, now I can go back to Mr. Ballingy and say it doesn't, and here's how you can get in touch. That's our job now, is to, at the local side, is to help push this out and to get that information to the people that really need the help.
Yes, sir.
So thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, and thank you. And we certainly don't want to be in conflict. Certainly, we're working together on this. We know that we work with you guys and you work with your constituents, and so it is truly a team effort from us and you. So if it has to be, if you got to come to us and say what's going on, what's the deal, happy to accommodate. But certainly appreciate your guys' partnership on this. Wouldn't be possible without you. These teams have really, I think, been really, really successful beyond, I think, what people thought they could be when they were sort of designed and conceived. Yeah, so anyway, really successful partnership on this, and we appreciate it a lot. So thank you. Appreciate it. But seeing no other comments, I will stop sharing my screen. I will stop the recording, and we will work to